Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. Probably not having a good night after watching that Pistons game, if we're being honest. But we're still going to do this podcast regardless if they're winning or losing. We're going to go over these quarter notes, and after we're done with these quarter notes, we will, take any questions, comments, overall thoughts for you guys that are watching live on YouTube right now. So, 3-1-3 day. Pistons are playing the Wizards again, which is kind of rare. You get to see a team a couple times a week, especially at home. But scheduling kind of favored the Pistons in that way. But tonight's game, I thought right off the gate, the energy was lacking from this group. Now they did go on to a little lead first 2-3 minutes in the quarter where they were up, 6-7 nothing. Um, but the Wizards woke up. They pushed the pace. Even though the Wizards are one of the worst teams in the league, they're one of the better teams in transition. And if you're just looking at the box score, the Wizards really finished around the painted area. But I thought our interior defense, especially in the first quarter, wasn't good. Too many backdoor cuts. And the Wizards, in my opinion, in the first quarter, they just brought more energy. I mean, they had a 5-point lead at one point, but the Pistons were very fortunate to come out of halftime with a 31-31 tie with them. That was the score after the first. Going into the second, you saw Isaiah Stewart doing what he does, bringing energy. Well, we're going to talk about Stu a little bit later in this podcast, I'm sure. But the Wizards transition game, I really thought gave the Pistons a lot of issues, and especially just the way that they were just living in the paint, and also just their perimeter shooting, hitting 23 pointers tonight, was not good. I thought there was a lot of situations where we just weren't closing out as hard as we probably should have. Even though Washington is one of the worst teams in basketball, that's still an NBA team. They still have NBA players at the end of the day. But obviously, the Wizards just kept punching back. Pistons had a slight lead in the second quarter. It was only a 2-point lead, 48-46 after a hard away three, but they go on a 9-0 run to regain the lead. And it was just too many fouls by the Pistons as well. I mean, you go into halftime almost giving up 70 points, like 69-62 was the score coming out of halftime. And, the third quarter was much of that. I will say the third quarter was probably one of their better quarters, and it wasn't really until Cade Cunningham got a flagrant foul on Julian Champagne, or Champagny, I think his last name is. If I said that wrong, I do apologize. But Cade got a flagrant, and he was playing pissed. And the Pistons go on a 24 run after that point. And it looked like they were going to be able to have a good fourth quarter and close out this game, but I think the fourth quarter was much like the second quarter in terms of just giving the Wizards so many opportunities to just shoot wide open threes and not pick up, guys like Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr was open on the perimeter a lot. There was multiple possessions in the fourth where he was getting easy looks. Keontae George, it's not Keontae George. I know his last name is George. I think it's Keyshawn George, if I do remember correctly. He was basically quiet all game, and then he hits two big 3-pointers on the stretch in the fourth. And going kind of like last 10 seconds, we hand the ball off to Tim Hardaway Jr., and he shoots a really tough contested 3-point shot. And we have to foul. Marcus Smart obviously makes his free throws. It's a 4-point game, and we go to Tim Hardaway Jr. again. The ball's halfway down, pops out, and that was a game. You gave up 129 points to the Washington Wizards. 4-point loss, 129-125. Obviously, with this week, I think a lot of Pistons fans looked at Washington as two easy wins, and I think the game that we saw on Tuesday and the game we saw on Thursday, completely different outcomes, completely different mindsets, and game plans. Washington knew that Pistons struggled with backdoor cuts. They knew that, if you get Jalen Duren away from the painted area, you don't really have another defender to, really stop them. Um, and you have to give them credit. They made 23 pointers tonight. And any given night, any team can hit 23 pointers. Just the way we live and just this spacing, NBA in 2025. Like any team can get hot from three. I mean, we just saw the Celtics attempt like what 67 threes last night. Like that's just kind of like where the league is going. But overall, listening to the podcast, listening to the post game comments with JB Bickerstaff and Jalen Duren. JB says, lack of effort, defensive urgency wasn't there. I agree. Isaiah Stewart said, we didn't take them seriously, which I think is a huge red flag that you're not taking a team like Washington seriously when that was just you last year. Like you should know how desperate a team like a Washington possibly is. You should take that seriously. And JB took accountability, basically saying like this loss is on us. You want to point the finger at someone. It's on the team collectively, and I agree. I think the defensive effort wasn't there. I kind of question why Asar Thompson was not out there, especially the way Washington was hurting the Pistons on the perimeter. I really do. I don't understand why Asar wasn't out there. I don't understand why Stu wasn't out there. But overall, I think if you're looking at this loss, not great. And you have the best team in the Western Conference in the OKC Thunder on Saturday. That is going to be a really hard game to win. OKC is one of the better teams, if not the best team in the NBA. You could definitely have that argument up there with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics right now. You honestly could. SGA is going to be really hard to keep off the free throw line. They have good role players. They have secondary players like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Like OKC is going to be a very, very tough game. And I hope they take it seriously. I hope to take a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder seriously. The fact that JB and Isaiah Stewart said we didn't take them seriously, to me, that's a red flag. It really is. You should take every opponent seriously at the end of the day. But hey, this is a bad loss. I would probably chalk up this loss up there with the Utah Jazz loss earlier this year, where they don't take a team that has kind of an underwhelming overall record seriously. Hopefully, this wakes them up like the Utah Jazz loss did, and they come out fighting and give themselves a chance to try to beat an OKC Thunder team this Saturday. But I do want to get to questions, comments, and overall thoughts with you guys. We're just going to take a quick commercial break, and then after that, we'll wrap up this podcast and answer your guys' questions. We'll be right back, you guys. Okay, you guys, we are back. I want to get into questions and comments and overall thoughts. I want to go to X Flame Lord 350W with the super chat. Did you hear the MVP chants for Caden? I did. I did. That is something that we've been hearing more ever since Jared Goff kind of choked in the playoffs. You don't really hear those chants anymore. You hear more MVP chants for Cade, and I didn't even mention it. Cade went to the free throw line 20 times. That's not a career high. I think that was the most free throw attempts by a Piston since Blake Griffin. Like we really haven't seen Cade go to the free throw line, but the MVP chants We're definitely deserving. I will say this was a game where you look and you watch. Cade did not shoot the 3-point ball extremely well. I don't remember which one of you it was. Last post game podcast on Tuesday, you had mentioned, am I concerned with Cade Cunningham's 3-point shot not going in after the night? I am. I think going, I think he went 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 tonight. Like, at the end of the day, especially with playoffs coming up, we're gonna start needing that 3-point shot to fall. Obviously, he is in a little slump. Hopefully, he can get out of that. I think he shot 9 out of 25 from the field. Don't have the box score pulled up in front of me, but did get to the free throw line over 20 times, which hopefully that is a sign that he's getting a little bit more respect by the officials. Even if Cade got to the line 10 times a night, I think he should, just the amount of contact that the guy does get. But hopefully that is a sign that possibly Cade Cunningham is going to be getting to the free throw line a little bit more. Johnny has a comment about tonight's game. And it says, I always get nervous when a Pistons game is close down to the wire. We've got two players with certified clutch genes, Beasley and Ivy, and one of them is injured. Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning of the season, we saw this a lot, Johnny, where games would go down to the wire. This team had a really hard time figuring out how to close games. But I think you could probably say from like mid-January all the way up to now, they started to figure out how to close games a little bit more consistently. But I have noticed some slippage over the past, I want to say, week and a half of this team have bad fourth quarters. I mean, you could chalk it up to the Golden State West Coast road trip where they were up in Golden State. They had a shot to win it, but they kind of choked it away. The Portland game, I thought they were very fortunate to win that one. Portland could have easily won that. Kind of got lucky. They couldn't hit shots. And nights like tonight where you have a lead going into the fourth after you had a great third quarter going on a 20-4 run, and you had a lead for a little bit in this fourth quarter, but you couldn't close it out and put it away. Obviously, we could talk about rotations. We could talk about Sarr not being out there, Isaiah not being out there. A lot of players we could point the finger at, but I think with this loss, it's just effort defensively. That's why they lost. It wasn't because, they didn't shoot well from three, which they didn't. Would have helped if they made more, but it was just defensive effort. Giving up 130 points to an NBA team, it's not good. It's not great when you've had one of the better defensive ratings since February. Shift God, devastating loss fan. Yeah, I mean, I see Pistons fans right now, especially on social media, Twitter, whatever it may be, whatever you guys are on, saying this is one of the worst losses of the season. I agree. I think, you had a really good shot to try to propel yourself up to possibly jumping to that fifth seed. I know a lot of Pistons fans were hoping that the Bucks in the Lakers game where the Lakers were going to win that. Obviously, it looked like the Bucks last time I looked were up on the Lakers late. I don't know if they won the game. They probably did last time I looked at the score, but yeah, it was a very devastating loss for the Pistons, especially hosting the Wizards twice in a week. I got a comment from Avery Whiteside after Shaq diss and people coming to our defense. We lose to the Wizards. Yeah, I mean, it happens to the best teams. It really does. And when you don't take an NBA team seriously, like the Washington Wizards, at the end of the day, they have NBA players. They added veterans to this squad, and Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton and Rashawn Holmes is a good piece. Like, they have vets. They have players. Their biggest issue right now is this youth. And I think Washington will be a much improved team next year. I think they have some interesting pieces that I like. I like Bub Carrington. I like Alex Sarr. Koulibaly, even though he wasn't out there, he's a piece. They have Sadiq Bey, former Piston, who's going to be out for the remainder of the season. Like they have some good pieces. At the end of the day, I think this loss is more on just defensive effort, in my personal opinion. I have a comment from Quinn. I think JD is actually being played out of position. I think he's a traditional four. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him use his mid-range more. He has a bag, but coaching isn't allowing him to use it in the half court. I disagree, Quinn. I don't think Jalen Duren's a 4. I don't. I think he's a 5. Does he have a mid-range game? From what I've seen in practice clips, yes, when no one's guarding him, he does. Um, and I don't think the coaching staff is holding him back. If anything, I think the coaching staff has actually allowed him to handle the ball more, have more dribble handoff situations. I just disagree. I do not think Jalen Duren's a 4. I think a 6'11, 250 plus guy that doesn't really have an outside shot right now. I think there is some possible mid range game there, but I don't really think it's ready to uh, be used in a game yet because like a lot of the stuff that Jalen Duren does is rim running, lob catching, finishing around the basket. I think he needs more development in just ball handling. I see the mid range shot in practice, but I don't think the Pistons staff is holding him back at all. I really don't. He's 21. I get fans are frustrated with this loss, but I don't really look at Jalen Duren as having an automatic 12 to 15 footer right now. Could be in his bag, but maybe a few years down the line. Speakeasy Sports, bad loss, 100% agree. Quinn with another comment, not really a fan of Dennis Schroeder acquisition. He's not doing what we need in terms of passing. He's acting more like a refined Sasser rather than a backup point guard we need. Okay, like here's the thing. Dennis Schroeder, in my opinion, personally, I think he's done a pretty good job of facilitating and getting everyone involved. Tonight was a night where obviously he did not facilitate. Okay. I don't think he was a bad acquisition. I think sometimes we just get reactionary after a bad loss like this. At the end of the day, you have to credit Washington's defense and their effort because they were making things difficult for the Pistons. I'm not going to come up here and have a reactionary take because I'm just kind of looking at the full view and the full scale of things. I think Dennis Schroeder was a very good pickup for the Pistons, given what they had to give up. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing for a guy like Dennis Schroeder. Can't lose a game to a team with a 13 and 51 coming into this one. Can't give up 23s. Glad Cade was getting to the line, but hoping he hit 1-3. I agree. You have to take a team seriously like the Wizards, and they didn't. And that's why they lost the game, spare account. Them hitting 23s, I think it's more of a Piston thing. That's more of a perimeter defense thing. Even the beginning of this season, we saw multiple teams hit 10, 15, sometimes 23s against the Detroit Pistons. Can't lose a game to a team like that. You're right. They didn't take them seriously. The Wizards just came out with more energy. That first game was really scrappy, and I'm sure they wanted to get one on the Pistons, and they did. But I'm not going to dismiss them as a basketball team because they're NBA players. I know fans don't want to hear that, but they have good players on their team. Don't look at their record thinking that they're just an easy win. They're really not. I mean, they went down to the wire with the Raptors the other night and almost stole one against them. I mean, over the last 10 games, they're not losing every game. They're at least trying to stay somewhat competitive. But I get fans are frustrated. I know a lot of fans is chalked up this week as a 2-1 week. You thought you were going to beat the Wizards twice, but I think the Pistons were looking ahead to the schedule, focusing on OKC, and didn't really take a team like Washington seriously tonight, and that's why they lost at the end of the day. I thought this loss was because of all one-on-one basketball that was played all game, no ball movement, and we didn't share the ball much at all, just selfish basketball tonight. I do tend to agree in terms of the ball did stick. It got stagnant at times, Red Baron. This has been a team that has been very unselfish, having anywhere from like 28 to 30 assists a night. But tonight was just a game where you did see a lot of one-on-one, a lot of situations where there was a lot of shot clock left and we're taking very tough contested threes. I know someone had mentioned in the chat about Malik Beasley. The scouting report is out on Malik Beasley. Teams know the Pistons want to go to Beasley, and he's getting run off that three-point line. They're throwing multiple bodies at him. That's why he's not able to get off 10 3-pointers a night, just because the way that they're just trying to run him off that three-point line. And that's probably going to be the scouting report for the remainder of the season and the playoffs, because Beasley's an elite three-point shooter. But I do agree with you. The perimeter shooting tonight was really bad. Or not the perimeter shooting. The ball movement and not passing the ball and just the one-on-one ISO game was bad. I think Washington surprised the Pistons in terms of just the way that they were defending and competing. I don't think they expected them to come out so aggressive and more hungry and have more energy. I think they were just looking at the same team that they played on Tuesday. And obviously they lit a fire under them after all the technical fouls and the shoving matches and the elbows to the face with the Sar Thompson. But overall, I can understand why fans are mad. We're going to wrap this podcast up, though, you guys. I don't want to take up too much of your time. This was a 129-125 loss to the Washington Wizards. Pistons play one more time this week against the OKC Thunder. I do want to kind of give you guys a little PSA. We will be doing a podcast this weekend on Sunday with our guy Czar. So we will have some weekend podcast content for you guys. But until next time, go Pistons. I'll see you guys Saturday immediately after the Pistons OKC game. Until next time. Later.